Today we're doing 139, Psalm 139. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You're familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the depths, you're there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book, before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I'm still with you. If only you, God, would slay the wicked. Away from me, you who are bloodthirsty. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. Do I not hate those who hate you, Lord, and abhor those who are in rebellion against you? I have nothing but hatred for them. I count them my enemies. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Now, the context for the psalm, some suggest, is actually the bit at the end. So see where it turns and you think, well, that took a strange turn, this poem. It starts off all about how wonderful God is and how wonderful it is He's in your life. And then it's like, and here's all the people I hate and what I'd like you to do to them. And some people think, oh, well, surely that's in the wrong place then. Maybe it's not meant to be part of that psalm. But some have suggested, I think quite accurately, that this is the bit at the end is actually where the person writing it finds themselves. This is someone who is in a place of pressure, who feels got at, who feels that they have enemies who are out to get them. And it's in that context that they remind themselves of the love of God and the greatness of God towards them. Now, perhaps you're wondering why I've got a picture of that up. Do you know where it is? Some of you might have been there on your way to beat Hibernian. Sorry, Jim. Do you know what it is? It's Edinburgh. That's the Omni Centre. And I'm so old that I remember when it wasn't there. Unfortunately, this is the Omni Centre. Now, why on earth am I putting the Omni Centre in your head? It's because every time you go to Edinburgh, I want you to remember what we're about to think about. Because God is the Omni Centre. I don't mean God is the Omni Centre, but God is the Omni Centre of the universe, okay? If you look at some of the commentaries on these Psalms, what you'll hear about is the omniscience of God. God is all-knowing. God knows your thoughts before you think them. That's interesting. Now, I'm not going to don't put your hands up, but if any of you get a lot of intrusive thoughts that seem to come from nowhere, well, maybe that's where. Maybe that's all thoughts are intrusive. Maybe all thoughts come from somewhere before they come to you. But God knows all your thoughts before you even think them. It says before even a word is on your lips, God knew what you would say, and He knew it in all eternity. God is omniscient. God is omnipresent. You cannot escape God. The psalmist talks about all the places he could go to try and get away from God. We're going to look at that in a minute. But there is nowhere in the universe that God is not present. And so the psalmist cannot escape God. Now, some of the people that write about this psalm say, well, you better watch out. God's everywhere and he's watching you. But I don't think that's the right way to read this psalm. This is not a psalm saying, watch out. It's, Santa's got a list type statements. God is everywhere. He is inescapable. And that's not meant to be a threat. Although, wherever God is present could be scary. This is about that there is nowhere that you can be in the universe that God will not be present with you. And that's meant to be a comfort. Now, I'm not even sure I'm going to say omniscience. Omniscience. The Apple dictionary on my computer didn't even have that word. I had to go elsewhere. No one says it. And I stuck the definition up for you. So, unlimited in creative power. God is unlimited in creative power. And the psalmist talks about that in a bit we're going to look at in a minute, where he talks about God's power in creating him. So he has been formed by God, and God was present in the making of the universe, but also in the making of this person as an individual. Now, the psalm doesn't actually mention omnipotent, but I thought I'd throw it in to get all the omnis in. And actually, the power of God is quite clearly present, but God is all-powerful. So omni means all. So all-knowing, all-present, all unlimited in creative power, and all-powerful. God is the omnicenter of the universe. And so the psalmist says, if I went up to the heavens, I could not escape your presence. Even the astronauts and whoever else, the folk on the International Space Station, even those I suppose, is God present with probes going to Mars? Even if we make it there, we will not be able to escape the presence of God, which is quite a thought. There's nowhere even in the places that we don't know about yet that God is not present. He is present. Even if I went out of this world into space, you would be present, which is good news actually for the astronauts, isn't it? God is present even with them. That's a hurricane from high up. It's the image of today from NASA. Looking a little bit similar. Even if I went to the depths of the ocean. Now, I was trying to get one of those pictures with those really freaky black fish. Those terrifying ones that you can barely see and then they're right up at you. But even if I was at the very depths of the ocean. Now, I'm told that we have explored higher in the world than we've ever explored in depth. So there are places that we've never been or don't even know about in the depths of the ocean. But even if you manage somehow to throw yourself to the very bottom of the deepest trench of the ocean, God would still be present. I suppose the interpretation that sees this psalm as a threat comes from Jonah, doesn't it? Jonah tries to go to the end of the earth, and eventually he's thrown into the depths of the ocean. And in all of those places, God was still present. So there is nowhere that you can go that God will not be present. Do you know where this is? Some of you do. This is the nether. Okay, now I'm not sure, with AI and all that, I'm not sure how to deal with the question, is God present there? Like if we start to live like they predicted in the Matrix, where we don't leave the house, we get plugged in, does that mean God will be with our avatars? Don't know. But the reason I got the nether up is some of the older versions say Sheol. So even if I go to the underworld of death, but some of the old English translations say, even if I go to the nether. So you can die and you still can't escape God. You can no longer be living, but you are still living to God. So you can go to the heights of space, the depths of the ocean. You can even go to the underworld in death itself, and you cannot escape the presence of God. Sometimes people talk about hell as God's absence. Now, the psalm's not talking about, the psalm says Sheol, which is not quite as developed a thought as hell. But the point is, you can't, even in hell, people are in the presence of God. They're just not in his positive presence. Even in hell, people are in the presence of God. They're in his anger. You cannot escape God anywhere, even in the nether. Now these are, when you talk about all the omnis, when you use, is it Greek or Latin, omni? Can't even remember. When you use, it must be Latin. When you use all the omnis and all these big thoughts, when you think about space and the depth of the ocean, when you think about the nether, which is not even a real place, it's a virtual place. When you think about all these places, they can seem distant and abstract. But one of my favorite Bible commentators makes it very clear. This psalm is not about abstraction. This psalm is not about thinking about God as distant. This is not thinking of God. God knows everything and he's distant in the universe and he knows all things. In this psalm, God is very, very close. He is immanent. God is both all-powerful, all-knowing. His creative power is unlimited, and yet he is also very near, isn't he? This is the good news of Jesus Christ, that God has come very near. He's come so close. And I'll tell you why. Because the ultimate expression of the proximity of God, the nearness of God for the psalmist, is that God was with him when he was being formed in his mother's womb. God knew the psalmist before he was born. In fact, God knew the psalmist in conception. God knew God knew the psalmist before he was even a twinkle in his father's eye. God knew the psalmist. God knew this person in all eternity before he even was formed. And as he was being formed in the secret place, it says in his mother's womb, but then it gets all poetic. It says in the secret place, in the depths of the earth. When he says about being hidden in darkness, he associates that not as a moral thing. He actually associates that with the womb. When this person was being formed in the womb, they were known to God. Their days were known. Their future was known. Before they could speak, before they could think, before they even had emotions or feelings, this psalmist believes that he was known to God in all eternity. God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-seeing. He is omni-everything. And yet he is also so near that he knows the tiniest human form when that human form is unknown. Before the psalmist's mum even knew she was having a baby, God knew. And God was in relationship to that baby, to that being. One of the things that defines us as human beings is our relationship to God. In fact, I can't really think this through fully, but some theologians would say that the whole concept of humanity can only be understood in relation to God. If we're trying to define ourselves, the whole concept of being a human is a certain type of animal on the earth that is different from all the other ones because of their particular relationship to the Creator, to the image of the Creator. And even at the stage of conception, even as this baby is being formed, God is in relationship to this being. They are holy. God is both distant and great, unseen. The psalmist even says, I can't even fathom. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. I cannot even fathom your greatness and power, God. And yet, you were in relationship with me in the womb before I could even acknowledge you. You knew my days. You had a plan. How wonderful. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, understanding the science does not detract from the wonder of God's creative power. That God is the one who forms us by whatever process, and the psalmist knows it. And so, in the midst of the psalmist's trouble, in the midst of the fear of enemies, of the anxiety that he brings to God, in the midst of all of that, where does he find comfort? He finds comfort in the love of God. That he is loved by the Eternal One. He is loved by the greatest being in the entire universe. He was loved before he was even conceived. He was known. He is loved by the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-creative God who is present everywhere, even with him in the womb. But here's another beautiful thing, I think. If you can't really define a human being apart from the human being's relationship to God, what this psalm shows me is that God has decided to define himself in relation to the human. God does not need us. Steve's probably taught the kids the special word for this. I'm not going to ask you. But God doesn't need us. God does not need human beings in the sense that he is dependent on us in any way. And yet, God has decided to define himself in relationship to you. That's how precious you are. God, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-present, all-creative, decided in all eternity that he would define himself in relation to you. God is not dependent on you for existence, and yet he has defined his existence on his relationship with you. God is the one who is in relationship with human beings. There is no other God. There is no abstract God. There is no abstract human being. Both human beings and God are defined in relationship to one another. God loved you in all eternity. Before he even made the world, God had decided in eternity to define himself in relation to human beings. And God decided in all eternity to become one. Even God's love for humanity is not an abstract love. In all eternity, God decided that he would not only define himself, but he would become a human being. Such is his love for us. It is indescribable. He doesn't need to do it. He chooses you. He chooses to define himself. Let me finish with this. I get to know all of you pastorally, which is the privilege of being a minister, and I know that many of us in this room have lost children before they were born. But we can take comfort that God knew them in the womb. Even though they maybe never walked the earth, even though you hadn't thought of a name, God knew them. God was in relationship to them. God defined himself by his relationship to them. Even then, he loves us, he loves them so much, every human being, that he was already in all eternity in relationship to that child, even if that child didn't make it. What an amazing God. What great hope we have that he holds them in eternity. Let's pray.